Good evening, all of you. So, in day 10, we are going to discuss about decision making statements as well as common library functions used in the program. So, in day 11, we are going to discuss about iterative statements or loop control statements. So, in day 11, we are going to discuss about iterative statements and loop control statements. Let us start the session. So what is a loop control statement? So a loop is defined as a block of statements which are repeatedly executed for certain number of times. So if you want to execute a block of statements number of times, then you have to use loop control statements. So sometimes it is also called iterative statements. So if you want to execute the same statements again and again, then you have to use loop control statements or you have to use iterative statements. So that is about definition of a loop control statements. So now coming into what are the steps involved in the loop control. So it contain a loop variable. So that means for example, if you want to use for I is equal to 0. So that means you are using a variable I. So that it is a variable used in the loop. So here I is a variable that will be used in the variable. That will be used in the loop control statements. So initialization. So after declaring of I, now we have to initialize whether I will be start with 0 or whether I will be start with 1. So according to the programming requirements or according to the user requirements, you can start the I value is equal to 0 or I value is equal to 1. So that will be initializing the variable. So after that, you have to use increment and decrement increment and decrement. So after assigning value to the variable, then you need to perform increment or decrement of the identifier or variables. So that means you can add it or you can subtract it to the variable in which round of the loop control statements. So these are the four different types of loop control statements or iterative statements. So first one is a for loop. So and the second one is a nested for loop, and third one is a while loop control statements, and fourth one is a do while loop control statements. So what is a for loop? So this used when the statements are to be executed more than once. So if you want to execute this statement more than one time, then you have to use these iterative statements or loop control statements. So here the syntax of for writing of a loop control statement is so for is a keyword and followed by initialization, and it will be terminated by semicolon, and condition, and it will be terminated by semicolon, and increment or decrements, and followed by, so if that condition is satisfied, then it will be entered into block of statements like block statement 1, statement 2, and so on. So these statements can be repetitively executed until the condition will become as a false. So whenever the condition is a false, then the uh, controller will be come out that block, and which will go on to print the output on your screen. So that is about syntax of a for loops. So I hope you will be understanding what I am saying. So the syntax of for loop is for initialization semicolon, condition semicolon, and increment or decrement. And if it is satisfied, then it will go to execute the statements, a block of statements. So if the condition is false, then it will be the control will be not the control cannot enter into block of statements. It will be out of the block, and it will go and print particular value. So that is the syntax for loops. So these are the various formats of for loops. So this is syntax. You can also use a for loop like this also. For example, if you write for loop like this, so then what happened? So that or what is that meaning for writing of this syntax? So for example, I'm writing for followed by semicolon and semicolon. So if we use this type of syntax or this type of formats in our program, then the output, so it will goes to the infinite loop control statements. So that means uh, on the background screen, which will going to execute it uh, infinite times. So if you use a semicolon and semicolon, then in a background output screen, which will going to execute infinite number of times. So what is that meaning here for semicolon and semicolon? What is that meaning? So that means that you are not going to say what is the initial value, and you are not going to say whether it is an increment or whether it is a decrement. So you don't know what is the starting value, and you don't know whether the value will be incremented or whether the value will be decremented. So if you write like this in our program, then your program will be enter into infinite loop. So that is the output of the syntax. And second one, for a is equal to 0 and a less than or equal to 20, and here the output will be infinite loop. So why? Because you are initializing a starting at starting value, but you are forgotten whether it is incremented or whether it is decremented. So that's why this for loop syntax, which will be entered into the infinite loop. And third one, so for a is equal to 0, a less than or equal to 10, and a plus plus. So here you are mentioned starting value as well as whether it is an increment value or whether it is a decrement value. So now which will go on to display on your screen. The output is display value from 0 to 10. So it will go and display the values from 0 to 10. So next one, for a is equal to 10, a greater than or equal to 0, and a minus minus. So here also will be know what is the initial address, and whether the variable will be incremented or decremented. So for this syntax, which will go and display the output as, so display value from 10 to 0. So that means the values are printed in a decreased. So a value a is decreased from 10 to 0. So these are the different types of formats you can use in the for loops. So if you have any doubts, you can please under comment section you can write your query. So I will clarify your doubts after the completion of the class. So this is a flowchart diagram for loops. So so it is a starting of the flow control and initialization. So after initialization, you have to write condition, and after that, if the condition is true, then it will go and execute the, or it will go and enter into the block of statements. So after execution of this block of statements, then it will go on to update the counter. That means whether it is an increment or whether it is a decrement. And again it will go and check the condition. If it is true, then it will be entered into block of statements, and this will be going to executed until the condition will be as a false. So whenever the condition is false, then it will be come out that block, and it will go on to terminate the process. So this is a flowchart diagram for loop. Now here I am going to write a program to find the factorial of a given number. So I am going to find out the factorial of a given number. So for that I am writing here uh, header files hash include stdio.h, that means standard input and output.h, and hash indicate that it is a preprocessor directive, and you are going to say that stdio.h header file you must be include in our current running of the program. That is the meaning for include. And similarly, hash includes conio.h, that means that console So it is a conio uh, dot h console input and output header file. So here ash indicate that it is a preprocessor directive. So what is a preprocessor directive? Before your program is going to start executing, so these header files will be executed first. After that your program is going to start executing. So that is a meaning for ash here. And now coming into inside of my main function, I declared what are the variables I used in my program. So that will be declared in as a integer data type. And also I am taking here initial value for fact is equal to 1. So after that I am going to read the n value from the keyboard. So for that I am going to use a scanner function and followed by conversion symbol. So if it is integer data type, then I will be use a %d and followed by variable n, that is the address of n. So what is the value you are going to read from the keyboard, that value will be going to store into the memory location. So that is the meaning for address of n. So by using a scanner function, it is an input function. With help of this input function, you have to read any number of values from the keyboard. So after that, I am going to use a loop control statements. So for I is equal to 0. So I'm not going to start with I is equal to 0. So why? Because for example, fact equal fact into I. So whenever I substitute the I value here, then fact into 0. So 0 into something, it will be 0 only. So that's why I will go and start with the loop control will be I is equal to 1, and I'm going to check it up to I less than or equal to n. So that means that if your I value will be 1, let us take I is equal to 1, and you can substitute here 1 less than or equal to 5. So for example, let us assume that you are going to read the n value from the keyboard as a 5. Then you have to substitute in the place of n. So that is I value 1, 1 less than or equal to 5. So it is true. So whenever this condition is true, then it will be entered into block of statements. Then it will go and execute fact equal to fact into I. So then I got initial fact is equal to 1. So 1 into 1. Then I got factorial 1. And after execution of this block, then I value is going to incremented by 1. Now I is equal to 2. So 2 less than or equal to 5. So again the condition is true. Then it will be entered into block of statements. Then fact equal to fact into I. So previous fact will be 1. So 1 into I value 2. So 1 into 2, I got factorial 2. So and again the condition, the I value will be going to incremented by 1, that is a 3, and 3 less than or equal to 5. So again this condition is satisfied, then it will be substituted enter into block of statements. Then fact equal fact into I. So previous factorial will be 2. So 2 into I, now I value will be 3. Then I got 6. And again the I value will be going to incremented by 1, that is a 4. So 4 less than or equal to 5. Again it is true. Then it will be execute the block of statement. So previous value is 6. 6 into 4, that is equal to 24. And again the I value will be going to incremented by 1. Then 5 less than or equal to 5. It is true. Then it will go to print 24 into 5, that is equal to 120. And again the I value will be goes to incremented by 1. So that is 6 less than or equal to 5. So whenever the I value is equal to 6 less than or equal to 5, so then the condition is false. So whenever the condition is false, then it will be come out this block and it will goes to the printf function. Then it will go and print the factorial of a given number is followed by formatted string comma fact. So then I got the output will be for factorial is 120. So now I'm going to execute the same program in a online compiler. So this is a program for find out the factorial of a given number. So I said that I'm going to read the value from the keyboard. After that I'm using a for loop for I equal to 1, I less than or equal to n, and I plus plus, and fact equal to fact into I. Then after that I'm going to print the factorial of a given number is %d comma fact. Now I'm going to execute once again. So then it will go and execute successfully, then it will be asking the number, then I will enter, let us enter the number from the keyboard as a 4. Then if I press enter, then it will go and print the sorry, so it will go and print 24. So it will go and print 24. So let us execute once again, and I will provide a 5. So this is output here. So the factorial of a given number is 120 for fifth factorial. For a given number 5, then the factorial will be 120. So here the loop will be going to executed until the condition will become as a false. So whenever the condition is false, then it will be come out this block, and it will go and print the factorial of a given number is followed by format string comma fact. So this is a program for factorial of a given number. Now let us see one. So another program. So write a C program to display numbers from 1 to 10. So I want to display the numbers from 1 to 10. Then I will be use a loop control statement, that is for loop for I equal to 1, I less than or equal I less than 11, and I plus plus. So I want print numbers from 1 to 10. I don't want print a 11th number. So that's why here I am writing I less than 11. I less than 11. So whenever the I value is equal to 10, that is a 10 less than 11, then it will go and print the 10 value. So whenever the I value is equal to 11, so 11 less than 11, so at that time the condition is false. Then it will be come out the block, and it will go and print I value. So let us execute this code. So execute the code in our line. So now we can execute. So actually, so anyway, so this compiler is not printing properly. So anyway, the output for this program will be, it will go and print I is equal to 1. So 1 less than 11. So if it is true, then it will be entered into block of statement. Then it will go and print I. So and again I value will be cost incremented 2, and 2 less than 11. So then it will be entered into block of statement. It will go and print I value, that is 2. So like that it will go and print until the condition will become as a false. So that means it will go and print the numbers from 1 to 10. And this is another example. So write a C program to find the distance traveled by a vehicle. So for distance traveled by a vehicle, the formula will be ut plus half at square. So ut plus half at square. So that means you want to know u value and t value and a value. So if you know u, t and a values, then you need to substitute in this formula. Then we will go and find out the distance traveled by the vehicle. So for that, what you have to do? So here I am going to write one n value. So here I am writing n value for how many times. So how many times the iteration will be done. Okay, how many times the iteration will be how many times I need to enter u value, a value and t value from the keyboard. So for that I'm going to use n variable n here. So for example, if I give n value will be 5, then I need to enter u value and a value and t value. For every iteration you need to enter u, a, t values from the keyboard as a 5 times. Okay, I hope you will be understanding what I am saying. So here I am writing n value. I am reading n value for a number of times I want entered u, a and t. So that's why I am using here n. So if I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to n value. So that is if suppose I am going to read a number of times I want to repeat the entire process, 5, then 1 less than or equal to 5, so it is true. So if it is true, then it will go on to read u, a and t values from the keyboard. So after reading u, a, t values from the keyboard, then you need to substitute in the formula ut plus half at square. So you have to write ut as u into t plus at square. So for at square you have to write a into t into t. So t into t, that is t square. So that's why I am writing here a into t by 2.0. So by 2.0. So then I got the distance traveled by a vehicle of s. So there is another program for loops. And coming to next loop control statement will be nested for loops. So up to now we are going to see for loop, and if the condition is satisfied, then the block of statements is going to execute it number of times until the condition will become as a false. So whereas here it is also possible you can use a for loop inside another for loops. So if you use a for loop inside another for loop, then it is called as a nested for loops. So here the first for loop can be called as a outer for loops, and the second for loop can be called as a inner for loops. So whenever the outer for loop condition is satisfied, then it will be enter into inner for loops, and it will go on to check the condition. If it is true, then it will go on to execute the block of statements in the inner for loops until the inner for loop is going to executed until the condition will become as a false. So whenever the inner for loop condition is false, then it will goes to outer block. That means the outer block I value will be going to incremented by 1, and again it will be start checking whether the condition is true or false. If the outer block is true, then again it will be enter into the inner block. So like that the statements will be going to executed in the nested for loops. So this is an example here. So for example, here I am using a 2 for loops. So for I equal to 1, I less than or equal to 3, and I plus plus, it is a outer for loop, and I am using another for loop for j is equal to 1, j less than or equal to 2, and j plus plus. So if this condition is satisfied, then I want to print I into j. Okay, clear. So let us check whether how it will going to execute it. So let us see here, I is equal to 1 and 1 less than or equal to 3. So the I value is 1, so 1 less than or equal to 3, so it is true. So if it is true, then it will enter into the block of that means inner block. Then it will go and check the inner block statements. J is equal to 1 and j less than or equal to 2, that means 1 less than or equal to 2, the j value is 1. So that's why I need to substitute here 1 less than or equal to 2. So that is true. So if it is true, then it will go and print I into j. So that means I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 1. Then we will get 1 into 1, that is equal to 1. And again the inner loop is going to incremented by 1. So not incremented by outer loop. So only the inner loop will be going to repetitively executed until the inner loop condition is will become as a false. So whenever the inner conditional statement is false, then it will goes to the outer loop. Then it will go and increment the I value, and again it will check the condition. If it is true, and again it will be enter into the nested for loops, that is the inner statements. I hope you will be understanding what I am saying. So here for I is equal to 1, 1 less than or equal to 3, it is true, then it will enter into inner loop statements. And j is equal to 1, 1 less than or equal to 2. So that means 1 less than or equal to 2, it is a true. Then it will be print I into j. Then I got 1 into 1, that is 1. Then j value will be incremented by 1. Now it is 2. So 2 less than or equal to 2. Then it is true. Then it will print I value. What is I value previously? 1. So now what is the j value now? It is 2. So 1 into 2, it will be 2. So increment the j value by 1. Now it is 3. So 3 less than or equal to 2. Now it is false. So whenever the condition is false, then it will goes to the outer block and the I value will be going to incremented by 1. Now I is equal to 2. So 2 less than or equal to 3, it is true. Then again it will be entered into block of statements. J is equal to 1. So 1 less than or equal to 2, it is true. Then it will going to print I value will be 2 and J value will be 1. So 2 into 1, it will print 2. So like that the inner control statement is going to executed until the condition will become as a false. So whenever the inner loop control statement will be false, then it will goes to the outer block. Like that the loop will be going to executed until the outer block will be condition will be false. So whenever the outer block condition will be false, then it will be skip entire process, then it will go and print output on the screen. So this is a flowchart diagram for nested for loops. So initialization condition 1, so it is true, then it will goes to condition 2, it is true, then it will go and execute the statements, and inner block it will be incremented or decremented, and again it will be check the condition true or not. So if it is false, then again it will be terminate the inner block, and again it will goes to the outer block and it will go and increment the outer block value. So like that the outer block will be also false, then it will go into terminate the process. So this is a flowchart diagram for nested for loops. And the third one is the while loop control statements. So the syntax will be while, so it is a keyword and followed by condition, and if this condition is satisfied, then it will go and enter into the body of the loop. So while condition, if it is true, then it will be enter into block of statements. So this block of statements is going to execute it up to the condition will become as a false. Now let us see here flowchart diagram for while. So condition, so if it is true, then it will be going to execute it block of code repetitively. So it will go and execute the block of code repetitively until the condition will become as a false. So whenever the condition is false, then it will be terminate the process. So this is a flowchart diagram for while condition. Now it is a program for I want print a welcome message in 9 times. So I'm going to print the welcome message in 9 times. So for that what you have to do, I'm going to read the x value. I'm going to declare the x value, so that is x is equal to 1, and I will go and write the condition in while. So while followed by x less than 10, and if this condition is satisfied, then it will go and print a welcome on your output screen. So after printing of this welcome, then the x value will be going to incremented by 1. Now it is 2, and 2 less than 10, it is true, then it will go and print welcome again, and after that it will go and increment the I value. Now it is a 3, so and 3 less than 10, it is true, then print welcome, and now it is 4, so 4 less than 10, print welcome, and now it is 5, 5 less than 10, so it is true, then print welcome, and 6, 6 less than 10, then print welcome, increment ix value. 7, 7 less than 10, it is true, print welcome and increment x value. Now it is 8, 8 less than 10, it is true, print welcome and increment x value. Now it is 9, so 9 less than 10, it is true, then it will go and print welcome and it will go and increment x value. Now it is 10, so 10 less than 10, now the condition is false. So whenever it will go into false, then it will go into terminate the program. So that means until the condition will become as a false, the block of code will be going to incremented. It will go and print that output something on the screen. So in this example, while execution of this code, it will go and print up to 9 times. So it will go and execute the code up to, and it will go and produce output up to 9 times. So let us compile this code in online editor. Now can execute this code. So like this. Okay, now I hope you will be understanding what I am saying. So the condition is repeated. If the condition is satisfied, then it will enter into the block of statements, and it will go and print welcome until the condition will become as a false. So whenever the condition is false, then it will be come out the block. So it will go and print how many times? So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 times. So whereas the 10th time, why it is not printed? Why? Because whenever the x value will be 10, so 10 less than 10, so it is false. So that's why it will print up to only 9 times. So that is the example for message you need to print 9 times. And this is an example for using a factorial of a given number. So whereas in previous one you have seen, discussed already by using a for loop. So whereas this is an example for using a while loop. So this is a code. Now let us execute this code. So it will asking enter the number. Then I need to enter 5. Then I got the factorial of a given number is 120. So whereas in previous one you are using a for loop control statements. Now for the same program we are implemented under while condition also. So let us explain this code. So if you want to find out factorial of a given number, first you need to read value from the keyboard. So here I am going to read the value, that is a n value from the keyboard as a 5. Then I need to substitute in the condition, while condition, that is I less than or equal to n. So initially I am taking I is equal to 1 and fact is equal to 1. So then 1 less than or equal to 5. So my n value will be 5. So 1 less than or equal to 5. It is true. If it is true, then it will enter into block of code, and which will going to execute a fact equal to fact into I. So the initial fact will be 1. So 1 into and I value will be 1. So 1 into 1. Then I got fact equal to 1. And after that the I value will be go to incremented by 1. That is a 2. 2 less than or equal to n. It is true. Then it will print uh, 1 into 2. Then I got 2. Then it will go and increment I value 3. So 3 less than or equal to 5. It is true. Then it will be entered into 2 into 3. Then I got 6. Then I value will be got incremented by 1. Now it is 4. 4 less than or equal to 5. It is true. Previously I got 6. Now I value 4. So 6 into 4. Then I got 24. Then it will go and incremented I value 5. 5 less than or equal to 5. Again it is true. Then 24 into 5. So it is 120. And again it will go and increment the I value. Now it is 6. 6 less than or equal to n. So the condition is false. So whenever the condition is false, then it will be skip this block, and it will goes to the printf function, and it will go and print the factorial of a given number is followed by formatted string comma fact. So then I got the output will be 120. So this is a program for by using a while condition. Now and another one is do while. So in a do while, so what is the difference between a while and do while here? So in a while condition, so whenever the first it will go and check the condition. So after that, if the condition is satisfied, then only it will be execute the body of the loop. So whereas in do while, first it will go and execute the statements. So in do while, in a do, first it will go and execute the block of code. After that it will go and check the condition. So that's why even though the condition is false, the block of code must be executed at least one time. uh, Are you understanding what I am saying? So here first it will go and execute the statements. After that it will go and check the condition. That's why, so even though the condition is false, at least one time the code will be going to execute it. So that is only the difference here, while and do while. So for while, first it will check the condition. If it is true, then only it will be entered into block of code. If it is false, it cannot be entered into the block of code. So whereas in do while, first it will go and execute the block of code. After that, it will go and check the condition. So that's why even though the condition is false, the code must be executed at least one time. So that is only the difference between while and do while. So this is syntax for do while. So do and followed by statements and followed by condition. So while condition, and one more difference is that in a while statement you are not going to use any semicolon here. So for using a while loop control statement, you are not going to use semicolon here. So we'll be use semicolon only in a do while. So if you are use a do while, then while will be terminated by semicolon. So that is another difference between while and do while. So this example will be going to execute it on a do while. So in a do, I'm going to write these statements. So after execution of this block, then it will go and execute the condition. So that's why when compared to the while and do while, so even though the in a do while, even though the condition is false, so at least these statements will be going to execute it one time. So that is the only the difference between while and do while. Now here I am giving a difference between while and do while. So I said that in while loop the condition is tested first. After that, if it is satisfied, then it will go and execute the body of the loop. So whereas in do while, so it will be the condition is checked at the end of the loop. So that means the statement will be going to execute it first. After that, the do while condition will be tested in do while. So and similarly, that's why in do while will be executed at least one time. So even if the condition is false. So even if the condition is false in do while, so the statements will be going to executed at least one time. So whereas in while condition, if it is true, then only it will be entered into block of statements. Otherwise, it cannot be entered into the block of statements. So that is the only difference between while and do while. So this is another. So that's all about the today's session. So in today's session, we have discussed iterative statements or loop control statements. So for loop, nested for loop, while loop, and do while loop. So if you have any doubts today class, you can post your query in the comment section, and I will try to answer your queries. So that's all about today class. So if you have any queries, you can post it in the chat box. If you have any queries, please post it in the chat box. So if you like today's session, please give a yes button or thumbs up button. So if you like today's session, so please be give a yes or thumbs up button. And if you are like this today's session, please you can like this video. So that's all about today's session. I will share the day 11 attendance link in under this video comment session, as well as directly into the WhatsApp group. So thank you for attending today's session.